Hi everybody and welcome to Surveillance Report 11. Again, just another week of news, and today, not too much new, not much happened this last week. Some things happened, some things didn't. It's definitely not one of the busier weeks, which makes my life easy, so let's get right into it. I forgot to make a promo for this video, and now I need to make a new one right now. Or I could just make this the promo. Oh, I could make this promo. Alright, what am I going to promote here? Support us, alright? Support us on Patreon. BAT, we are on BAT. So if you go on our website and you use the Brave browser and you've been using their ads, you can tip us with that BAT. We have Monero. So if you want to be that hipster using an anonymous coin to give us money, that's a way to do it. And also there are free methods as well. I can list them off. Why not? Techlore.tech/support.html. Free ways to give back. You can use our Amazon shopping link. So if you're going to shop on Amazon, you can use our link before you purchase. And we have merchandise. There's merchandise. There's our Coinbase affiliation, and there's also the Binance affiliate link as well. That is it. That's the promo, and yeah, that's our messy promo for the day. Starting with companies, researchers discovered that Xiaomi, the phone maker, was essentially spying on its users. Their browser recorded all sites visited, including search engine queries, regardless of the search engine, so the duck won't save you. And neither will incognito mode, to add to that damage, because this was directly tied to unique numbers for identifying a specific device and Android version, and the metadata could easily be correlated with the actual human. Again, if you were in incognito mode, they were still tracking all your searches. This is for your own benefit, apparently. They even found this data was being sent for behavioral analytics through a Chinese startup called Sensors Analytics. Xiaomi responded saying, the research is untrue. So they pretty much just denied all the research that was done and said, this isn't true. There is actually more to this. They go into more depth justifying what they did, so they do actually admit it is a problem. So it's kind of confusing that they say this is untrue and then they turn right back around and say, well, this is why it's not a big deal. I'd read the response. It's pretty hilarious. Google and Apple today, they kind of combo up and they mishmash pretty well. So Google Chrome 81 has two new high-rated security vulnerabilities allowing an attacker to take control of an exploited system. So make sure to keep everything up to date. To soften the blow on their own products, this is a made-up story, that this isn't actually why they did it, but to soften their own blow, Google has disclosed zero-click bugs impacting several Apple operating systems related to multimedia processing libraries, specifically ImageIO and OpenEXR, which could grant access to the user's device. These bugs have all been fixed, so update or just don't download that annoying GIF that your friend always sends you. I'm actually that friend. I like sending GIFs to people, I think it's funny. Now, Apple. No! In the iOS 13.5 beta for iPhone, users discovered the iOS contact tracing feature was on by default. They had to go into the settings and disable it. This goes against previous announcements by Apple that kind of hinted that this would be an opt-in feature, implying it's not a default. This is a beta, so we'll see if this makes it into public release. But until then, It's moments like these that I'm so grateful I'm on graphene on my Android device. And now for our other companies. Amazon has bought heat-sensing cameras to check workers' temperatures because of coronavirus. This is all extremely sketchy as Amazon refuses to come out and say what manufacturers it was getting its thermal imagers from. Amazon has kind of just said to everyone, don't worry about it. We got this. And you know what? I'm sure they do. Their treatment of employee history is just so solid, so I'm sure this is going to work out perfectly for them. Not only does Zoom get in the news, but Microsoft Teams got hit with a vulnerability that all it took to scrape a user's data and take over an organization's roster of Teams accounts was a malicious GIF file. What's with the multimedia things today? This is a complex attack, very unlikely to see in the wild, and Microsoft already patched it as well, so this isn't too large of a concern. Definitely seems like a better issue than most of the Zoom issues we come across. If you think contact tracing is bad enough, why don't we add some AI and facial recognition to it? That is exactly what Clearview AI wants to do, as their CEO has come out and said they are in talks with federal and state agencies to combine contact tracing with individuals' quote, public photos that they didn't authorize a scummy company like Clearview to use for their app and their database. So public is pretty subjective as is. Either way, scary stuff. Let's hope they fail, as I don't really see much of a need to combine facial recognition, AI, with contact tracing, as the devices themselves can offer the needed information to see this person came in contact with this other person. What's the point of adding a face to it? Firefox has released their Firefox Private Relay add-on, which allows you to generate unique email aliases to use on websites. This is super cool. It'll forward all emails from your aliases to your main email, so you'll get everything in the same location, essentially making this a proxy for third parties. If an alias is no longer one you want to receive emails from, like you keep getting spammed by a certain service, you can just delete that alias. Simple as that. It's currently in closed beta, but will one day hopefully see itself in the public. The schooling website Sheg suffered a data breach including names and social security numbers that affected some current and previous employees of the company. That is all. Kiwi? The mobile video platform has supposedly been leaking emails to third parties, like advertisers and tracking companies through plain text web links when users sign up for the service. They have changed their sign-up process to stop doing this, but they're still firm on their right to use email addresses to track them online. Maybe that Mozilla service can come in handy here. And that, my friends, finishes up company news for the week. Research was pretty bland this week. There are some cool things, some not so cool things, so let's just go ahead and dive into it. New research has been published revealing several different means of profiling and tracking users online by combining device identifiers with their biometric information. They found they could de-anonymize over 70% of device identifiers. Again, anonymization, not really that effective. The overall takeaway is to avoid IoT devices, because they are nothing but bad news for security and privacy, and they have a much more scientific way of saying that, so I would read that article. A new Android malware was discovered that targets banking apps and cryptocurrency wallets. This is called EventBot, and it acts like a legit Android app, and it abuses Android's accessibility features to obtain access to the device's OS. This can then intercept passwords and two-factor authentication text codes from more than 200 banking and cryptocurrency apps like PayPal, Coinbase, and many more. To add to this, it records all taps and key presses, as well as notifications, which can be read as well. So overall, it's just not a good thing to have on your phone. WordPress, surprise, has another plugin that opened 100,000 websites to compromise. This was caused by the real-time find and replace plugin that led to cross-site scripting and the injection of malicious JavaScript anywhere on the victim's site. This could be used to create a new admin account, steal session cookies, redirect users to malicious sites, obtain administrator access, and more. Not good things you want. This is fixed in the newest version of the plugin, so like everything, keep it updated. If you think celebrities and executives are immune to scams, well, they're just like us! Within the last few months, multiple groups of hackers have compromised corporate email accounts of at least 156 high-ranking officers from firms based in Germany, UK, Netherlands, Hong Kong, and Singapore. This leverages Microsoft file sharing services, and it isn't clear what this acquired data was used for, but it's now been collected, so what are you gonna do? That wraps up all the research. Let's move on to our next category. Politics. The USA, we only have 2 countries this week to cover. It was just the USA and China, so yeah, good little rivalry going. The USA is being, well, USA by blocking specific foreign-made electrical grid equipment to prevent hacking threats. Yes, that's our main bottleneck in the country's cybersecurity. It's where we obtain our hardware from. This undoubtedly explains the countless ransomware attacks that are caused by configuration issues. Either way, they say this is safer, so I guess we'll see. I'm sure there are much bigger things they don't pay attention to, but they're doing this because they're confident this will make a difference. Remember that one company, Banjo, who offered surveillance services to Utah, which included real-time surveillance of 911 calls, 911 calls, social media, and traffic cameras? Well, it turns out their founder used to be affiliated with the KKK. Better yet, he was involved in a drive-by shooting of a synagogue with the KKK. Oh, if only Banjo existed then to stop that from happening, right? The good news is the Utah Attorney General's office has suspended the use of the mass surveillance systems. Apparently, this is what made them change their minds, surprisingly. You know, it's not the constant surveillance or the fear of how this could be used against the general public. It's the fact that the owner of all of this information now is affiliated with the KKK. I guess that's an effective measure. Maybe we can start planting fake KKK stuff on other surveillance companies. Maybe that's effective. Maybe. The last US article is about Microsoft, who is trying to push their privacy bill in states being outside of Washington. Privacy advocates don't want these laws because they include plenty of loopholes that exempt businesses from complying, and this is all, for the most part, just a ploy for Microsoft to gain some political power. Since they failed to pass this in Washington, they are trying other states, Arizona, Hawaii, Illinois, and Minnesota, as well as others not listed. Microsoft, we know you don't care that much about our privacy. There's no need to pretend. If you're trying to gain political power, just tell us up front about it. That's pretty much all the US news. Over to China, the US's best friend. China has been installing surveillance cameras outside people's front doors, and sometimes inside their homes. This sounds very alarming, and I wish I could have more information about this, but I have never seen such a long, lengthy article, which answered no questions. This was all filler about just general surveillance between the US and China, without covering the actual story, meaning that's all I have to tell you. Apparently some folks in China woke up to a new camera at their front door. Can't tell you who, how many, why, or really anything else. But I got a lot of stats about US versus China surveillance camera numbers. Thank you, CNN. Thank you. Apologies for the rant. Very frustrating because this could be a very alarming story, but there's no investigative research being done on the actual story. Meaning I can't cover this, and you should probably just ignore this news until we actually get more information about it. Now for an actual article about China, a Chinese startup, Rokid, has developed smart glasses that help screen for symptoms of coronavirus. This checks temperatures, and that's it. That's why it's considered smart glasses. It sounds more complex than that, and I'm sure the engineering is, but it seems to have just that one sole purpose. Very creepy, and one more possibility of how it can be tracked. Imagine you're just walking on the street and you just take everyone's temperature around you. I can imagine this kind of technology being placed around cities, kind of like surveillance cameras, as a way to check citizen health for the public good, or whatever they want to say it's for. And finally, our Misfits. Our first Misfits are the Brits. 9 million logs of Brits' road journeys have been leaked from a passwordless number plate camera dashboard. This camera database with all these images could be accessed by just entering in the IP address into a web browser. No authentication whatsoever was required. Maybe they should take some notes from the US and don't use foreign parts. That's probably where they went wrong here. Sarcasm. Execupharm, a biopharmaceutical firm, has suffered a ransomware attack. This supposedly only affected employees, but yeah, misfit. That's about it to the story. State-sponsored hackers have been using zero-day vulnerabilities to hijack high-profile email accounts at Estonian email provider mail.ee. Or Maily? Like Wally? Maybe? This was done using malicious code that executed when the email was opened. This was highly targeted and only affected a small number of people that were considered people of interest to a foreign country. Another example of a pretty highly targeted attack, which kind of scare me. The French newspaper Le Figaro, didn't take French in high school, I took Spanish, so Le Figaro has leaked 7.4 billion records. The database contained API logs for the last 3 months, which contained current and previous subscriber data. Exposed information included names, emails, home addresses, countries of residence, IP addresses, server access tokens, passwords in clear text, and more. This was out of pure incompetence, and no one was at fault for this except themselves. The city of Torrance, a suburb near LA, California, was hit by a ransomware attack which stole 200 gigabytes of data. They've been told to pay or the data will be made public. If only they committed to US-only parts, like our new ultra-secure US-made electric grid. Alright, I'll stop making that joke now. And finally, our last article. Smart is once more not so smart to use, and another installment of smart devices being terrible for security. The company that sells smart parking meters, as well as tech used by parking enforcement agencies, was hit by a ransomware attack that exposed its internal files publicly online. This involved employee data, contracts within cities and parking garage vendors, bank statements, and credit card numbers of people who used their product. If smart is in the name, it is almost inherently worse for security and privacy. I've seen very few examples of smart actually working against this, except smart water. Yeah, it's crazy. So in general, just think twice when you buy something that has smart at the front of it, because for the most part, it's probably not going to be helping you when it comes to the privacy and security realm. And that, my friends, is the news for the week. I really appreciate your time, and you went and sat through this whole video. Luckily, this week was a little bit easier to compile, and hopefully it was a shorter review for you as well. That is all I have to say today. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I really appreciate you watching this far inside the video, and I want to thank our patrons. They are doing amazing stuff by supporting what we do, and I just can't be grateful enough for that. We have pretty consistently been above $100 a month, and let's try to get that up to our next goal, $200 a month. So all help is appreciated. Thank you all so much for that help, and thank you for watching. Have a great day, stay safe during coronavirus, and have a lemuricious day.